a second to lay down. Yay, to lay down on our backs and to grab a hold of whatever props you feel like you might need while on your back. I'm just gonna suggest having your bolster and your blocks nearby. And we're gonna start off in constructive rest as we often do. And here in constructive rest, let's think about our hips just for a second here. So you might take your feet out as wide as your mat and then let your knees drop into the center for that sort of internal rotation of your fingers and your hip sockets. But just know if that feels iffy or not so good, you can always point the knees up, feet as wide as they want to be. And let's just spend a moment arriving at our practice with a little bit of focused breathing. So first, let's just take a few slightly deeper breaths. In through the nose and maybe out through the nose. And this breath's just a little bit bigger than your normal breath. Okay, and then we're going to breathe into the count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's hold at the top for 4, 3, 4, and then let's breathe out for 4, 2, 3, 4, and then hold at the bottom for 4, 2, 3, 4, and again breathing in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, and then hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4, and then just work your way around that square. Maybe another half a dozen times. This bit of square breath, kumbhaka, where we are pausing. There's that movement, but then there's the pause. Maybe one more time around the square. All right. Now let's just take a moment to stretch your arms out past your head. Keep the soles of your feet on the ground. Great. If having your arms like straight out past your ears doesn't quite feel right, you can always take them out to the sides, but just finding a little bit of space in your underarm. You notice your shoulders touching down into the ground. You take a few deep breaths and notice the way that, this is going to sound a little funny, but the way your armpits move. Notice your jaw, wiggle it around a little bit. And then notice the inner ridge of your rib cage. Now take a couple of breaths and notice movement there. Notice how much or how little that part of your body is moving. And rather than thinking about like pushing your belly out as you inhale, taking those belly breaths, let's think about just finding movement around those lower ribs, the inner ridge of your rib cage as you breathe. And so a few breaths to feel that sort of movement in all directions, not just out in the front, but off to the sides, and then even around your back, like in the middle of your back. And last couple breaths here. Okay. And then let's take our arms back down. We place our hands on our lower ribs here. And let's just give ourselves like a little bit of a nice scratch on the sides of your rib cage. So it's not exactly like you're scratching an itch, but applying a little bit of pressure from your fingertips and sort of moving rapidly. Like a little wake up for this part of your body. Good. I know that this feels really good on me. Cat seems to love it. So just take a few breaths and notice how it feels in the sides of your rib cage, around your diaphragm. And then we're going to take this little scratching movement up to your solar plexus. And let's take it a little bit more gently. With solar plexus being right in between your navel and underneath your breastbone. Good, like right in the middle of things there. And maybe you're taking a little circle scratches, circles in both directions. Maybe you're just moving up and down, side to side. There's really no wrong way to bring attention to this space. Okay, and then from here, we're going to take a few moments to just bring the hands down to the low belly. And let's take a few pelvic tilts here. So kind of rocking the pelvis so that your tailbone points to the ground. And then lifting the tip of your tailbone up and kind of squeezing your butt. You're going to rock a little bit here. And as you do that, notice the way your spine changes shape. Notice strength in the belly and in the back. And then notice your breathing, which is hopefully just mostly through the nose. Well, you can take your hands and massage a little bit as you go. All right, and we'll just take another, maybe 2 or 3 more pelvic tilts. Hello, good morning. Hi. Alrighty, and then let's take some time to just find stillness again. And just sense your whole torso here for a second. From your shoulders down to your pelvis. Let's zero in a little bit on the area around your diaphragm, your solar plexus area, and on the inner ridge of the rib cage. And another breath or 2 just like this. Let's take a moment with our little tennis ball guy, little tennis ball contraction. Hi. It might be helpful to sit up and bring the tennis balls just about halfway down your mat and then scoot yourself to the bottom of your mat. Just so when we move, we're kind of moving right onto our mat instead of like into the wall or something. Yeah, and let's lay down and we're going to take the tennis balls to just right above our sacrum. So at the base of the spine, that bony plate. Oof, today this is feeling like something. Did I do this wrong? If we slide, are we going to slide? Actually, I changed my mind. We're going to take the tennis balls under our neck. Let's start there. Yeah, something wasn't quite making sense for a moment. All right, so as you take the tennis balls under your neck, think about maybe rolling them down ever so slightly so that they touch into those muscles that are on either side of your neck, your trapezius muscles, I believe. And it might be nice to rock your head side to side here. And just let those tennis balls press into the muscle, the connective tissue, the skin, the superficial fascia. Hopefully the bones of your C-spine are kind of in between the tennis balls. Just take a few more moments rocking your head side to side. And just noticing what you feel. And then very slowly, we're going to roll up. Here's hot. I'm going to roll up a little bit so that those tennis balls are just on the upper back, on either side of the spine. So we're kind of at the top of the shoulder blade area, but not quite down into them just yet. Sometimes I just like to sit here instead of moving around. So maybe you're just holding still and letting those tennis balls press in. Or another option is to move your arms around. You might stretch your arms out past the head, and then maybe take your hands onto the tops of your thighs. Right, there is that option, but just know that if you start moving and things start feeling real weird, you might go back to some stillness and let things soften in a nice passive way. If you are clenching your butt right now, see if you can let that relax a bit. Just take a nice, I don't know, 5 breaths more right on these 2 points. One more nice big breath. Just start to roll yourself down a little bit more. And now we're going to be sort of like in the middle of our shoulder blade area. And here I like to keep things moving a little bit. So maybe you're kind of pressing into the feet, kind of pushing and pulling with the soles of your feet, if that makes sense. And rolling around on those spots on either side of the spine, right around your shoulder blades. Back of the heart stuff. Notice what it feels like back here. Many of us carry tension, weirdness, what have you, in this space. Sometimes it's nice to sort of rock your upper body even side to side a little bit. Oh, that's a weird one. All right, one more nice big breath here. Let's start to roll ourselves up a little bit further so that you're sort of down, yeah, just under those shoulder blades, just where they end, down there at the bottom. I'm going to extend my legs out long here so that feels better somehow, weirdly, in my lower back. Good, but again, this might be a spot where you hold still. This might be a spot where you move around a tiny little bit. Maybe you want to go nuts, really move around. And so here we are sort of at that low part of your upper back. It might be nice to take your fingertips right to the bottom of your breastbone here, the tip of your sternum. Breathe, notice your heart beating. And then all of these natural rhythms that just happen without us even thinking, think that. couple of breaths. And then let's roll down just a little bit more. So we're gonna roll to the place in our mid back where our lower ribs are, those floating ribs, where our diaphragm kind of connects around the back. And this is a spot where I just like to sit still and like rub my belly. So maybe you want to do the same thing. Maybe your hands just move around on your belly. Give that belly a little bit of love and tension. It might be nice to sort of dig your fingertips in underneath your rib points here. Or maybe you're focusing on sort of dragging your fingers up and down the midline of your belly, conception vessel meridian. Take a few moments with this. So on the front of our body in the midline, we have our conception vessel meridian. On the back of our body in the midline, we have our governing vessel meridian. I think the front is Ren and the back is Du. Those are the two terms for those. So just knowing that as we work on these things, we are working on our body on an energetic level, not just our muscles and our bones, but these powerful channels that circulate vital forces through our physical body. All right, now let's find our kidneys. For many of us, this is going to be real weird. I know for me, it's kind of uncomfortable. So our kidneys are just above our pelvis, on either side of the spine. Bring the tennis balls down there. It might be nice to kind of wiggle around until you find a spot that feels a little bit tender, a little bit stuck or strange. Yeah, breathe. you know you want a bigger breath. So as we are pressing into these points, we are activating not only points on our urinary bladder meridian, which is that giant meridian that runs down the back of our body, but also our kidney meridian. These are points that kind of do two things. They're called backshew points. Take a few moments here, and it might even be nice with the tennis balls underneath your back here. Bring your hands onto your low belly and rock your knees from side to side. Imagining that any weirdness, any tension there can be broken up just by attention, a little bit of movement, and some nice nourishing breath. Last couple breaths, just like that. Okay. And I think we were kind of done with the tennis balls, actually. So let's pick up our backs or pelvises, I guess, and slide those tennis balls out of the way. Check where you are in the world. You might want to like kind of scoot yourself back onto your mat, into the center of things, if you are in a weird spot. And then from here, we're going to take a shavasana with blocks. So we're going to take these blocks and place them underneath our thighs so that our pelvis is somewhat elevated, actually. Okay, so this isn't exactly like a bridge pose, a restorative bridge pose, somewhere in between that restorative bridge and shavasana. But it's just taking our pelvis into this really passive and supported and relaxed. As you find this shape, just notice what your upper body is doing. Notice any sensation you might be feeling inside of your pelvic bowl. So we all have like different pelvises, different contents of our pelvis, different sensations that might come up. You notice your tailbone here and allow the muscles underneath your glutes and those larger gluteal muscles to soften a little bit. Your breath be nice and full, and maybe we'll just take 10 of them here. Wonderful. And so just like you gave your solar plexus and ribs a scratch, maybe now you're giving that tissue just on the inside of your hip points a little bit of a scratch. That low, low, low belly. Right above your private organs. Good. Maybe even like that hip crease here on either side of the groin. Not a little something, a little wake up. Last couple breaths just like this. Right, and then let's gently remove those blocks, take them out of the way. We're going to bring the soles of the feet down to the ground now. And we're going to bring our arms alongside the body and I'm taking them a nice pose. So we just lose the tension in the back of the body. Now let's think about activating the back body as you lift up your hips, press into your feet. You might take those robot arms, pointing your fingertips up towards the ceiling here, pressing the elbows into the ground. Or maybe you want to really strengthen through the arms too and sort of press your fingertips into the ground alongside your body. And let's try to hang out here for like a minute. Good. If things start to feel really intense and you want to set down and then lift back up, of course you're welcome to. And let's just spend these next 45 seconds or so really appreciating our back body, how strong it is. Take notice of that kidney area. And give it a little squeeze and a little lift. And last couple breaths here, you do great. Righty, and then let's roll that spine down to the ground. Knees in towards the sides of your chest. Little happy baby action. So as you're rocking side to side here, you might think about like gently walking, one sitting bone out long, and the other sitting bone out long. Creating a little bit of length in your spine. So maybe it's even sort of like a little figure 8 action here. Notice how the back of the body feels in contact with the ground. Right, and then we're going to set that left foot down and cross your right ankle on top of the left knee. Find this figure 4. Figure 4, any style. You can do whatever you want here. You might keep that foot on the ground, you might rock around, get that foot grounded. Maybe you're pulling the left thigh into your chest. After a big long bridge pose, I feel like a good hip stretch, a good butt stretch, just the thing. So take a few moments to notice how that right hip feels. Notice the middle of your back. And then notice the back of the head. I'm going to take another 5 breaths or so. Wonderful. Let's set that left foot back down. And we're going to underhook the right ankle and set the right foot down on the floor. And now let's take your block or your bolster if you have it nearby, and we're going to take that underneath the pelvis. Good. Coming up into this restorative bridge shape. Again, as you come up into this, it might be nice to gently palpate your low belly or slide your fingers up and down the hip points. Maybe press into that hip crease. And if it feels okay in your lower back, let's consider extending that right leg out nice and long here while keeping that left knee bent. And then we'll take our little bouncing, kind of rocking movement. So sort of bouncing that right leg a little bit here. I like to sort of move my foot and let the rest of my leg follow suit. So sort of trying to keep your muscles somewhat soft, even though you're moving. Notice your whole body sort of bouncing as you bounce that right leg around. This is a kind of, I don't know, maybe slightly aggressive, gentle way, relaxing your psoas. Good. Added pressure into that front of the right hip might be nice too. A little massage as you go. Little fingertips pressing in. Good. We'll just take another couple of breaths here. And then let's find a little bit of stillness with that right leg long. And if it feels good to extend your arms out past your head, I'm just going to offer that for a couple breaths. So from here, let's rebend that right knee and take the sole of your foot to the ground. And we're going to take the blocks or the bolster out of the way. As you bring your pelvis back down to the ground, let's cross that right thigh on top of the left, kind of like an eagle pose. Right, and then think about arranging your shoulders, slightly adjusting them so that maybe they're a little further away from your pelvis. And then take your hands right onto that solar plexus area again. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to press that left foot into the ground and squeeze the thighs together. And notice what the pelvis does when you do that. And then think about pressing the middle of your back down into the ground. And if you are clenching your jaw or your shoulders, just notice that. See if it can soften a bit. Okay, why don't we take 7 or 8 breaths here, squeezing those thighs, pressing that foot down, and pressing the mid back into the ground. This is like laying down into it. Great, one more deep breath here. And then release and your choice here. Maybe you're pulling your knees in towards your chest and taking your reclined shoelaces pose. Maybe you're unwinding the legs. We'll just take another moment here, either to stretch that right hip or come back to something that feels a little bit more neutral. Let's get out of this. Let's untwist those legs. And how about a nice long leg here? So let's extend both legs out long. Again, we're just going to kind of rock the feet. We're going to move our entire body on the ground. Kind of this little like back body regrounding. Thinking about what's connected to the ground, the pressure changes you feel, the movement you feel as you sort of point and flex your feet. Thinking about circulating fluids through your body, lymph. Calves are known as our second heart because of all they do to help return blood upward through our bodies. So just thinking your calf muscles for a second, letting them touch down. All right, and then you can just slow your roll. Find Shavasana and just notice how your body feels for a moment. Doing that in the morning on waking up. All right, so let's bring the soles of the feet back down to the ground. Figure four, that's what we're doing. So let's cross that left ankle over the right knee. And figure four you're choosing. So maybe it's foot on the ground, right foot on the ground, a little rocking. You might want to hug that right thigh in towards your chest and get a nice deep stretch through that left hip. All those little muscles that help to move your leg around. Those little muscles that help to stabilize you. Let's just breathe here. Take another handful of breaths, maybe 5 or so. Full body breath. Okay, let's set that right foot back down. If it's lifted, untwist those legs, rotate those blocks again, and yeah, come into that restorative bridge. We are lifting up the top again. Good, and then if it feels okay in your hip and your low back, extend that left leg out nice and long. And then maybe again, you're touching those hip points, maybe just like raking your fingers over that area. And then that little bounce of the left leg. So moving the foot, letting the rest of your leg sort of move along with it. And how does it feel over on this side? This side's always a little more iffy for me. What's this hip like today? Notice your shoulders, your jaw, your face. Everything kind of soft. Maybe another 5 breaths or so worth of this bit of rocking. And something that might be kind of fun is to notice how far up into your belly you can feel sensation from the rocking. Like, can you connect what's going on with your leg down, up into your spinal area? Whereabouts do you feel things? And spend a moment in stillness here. Go ahead and just bring that left foot back down to the ground, and we'll take the blocks out from underneath. And set your pelvis back down. And then, yeah, we're going to take that left thigh on top of the right. Right sole of the foot's going to stay connected to the ground. If you want to pick up your shoulders and set them back down, that might be a good thing to do. And then, yeah, really press down with that right foot, and squeeze your left thigh into your right thigh. Squeeze that right thigh into the left thigh. Good, and then mid-back presses into the ground, and see if you can keep your face somewhat soft and easygoing with all this like weird pressing going on. And notice the middle of your back. Notice your pelvis, maybe it's slightly lifted. And another breath or two. Okay, and then from here, go ahead and just release the squeezing. And you can either come out of it into constructive rest, or if you want to spend a moment hugging the thighs in towards the chest for a reclined shoelaces pose. That's the thought. You ever try to practice an eagle pose in the water? Very, very, very hard. Even more difficult than on land. Next time you find yourself in a pool, give it a go. And all that squeezing helps is what I'm trying to say. All right, good. Go ahead and just release here. And then let's take the soles of the feet together and then knees out wide and just find this little bit of opening in your reclined dog angle. If you have your blocks nearby, it might be nice to kind of tuck them underneath your outer thigh. And as we find this shape again, just noticing how it feels in the low back, in the low belly. And if you want to, there are a few options for the arms that I can pick up right off the top of my head. One of which is to rub your belly. Maybe you want to bring your arms out past your head and sort of create this diamond shape overhead by lightly interlacing your fingers, and just letting your hands rest. Or you could also give yourself a hug. Cross your arms over your chest and press the back of your heart into the ground. And wherever you are, think about gently dipping your chin in towards your throat so that the back of the neck is a little bit longer. We are definitely going to stand up at some point. But just for now, notice how the ground feels. And notice how your body feels connecting. Even as we shift onto our feet in the next minute or so, remember how it feels to have this full body connection. And consider that that might even be possible for your feet. One more breath. Right. There is no rush and there is no prescribed way to do this, but eventually we're going to come into a standing forward fold. So if you want to do a little rocking along your spine, that's a really lovely way to activate those back shoe points. Those points on your back that are actually linked into every other energy channel, every other meridian. But maybe you just want to sit up and like sip tea and look around the room. Maybe you have your cat nearby, you want to give them a scratch or something like that. And as we transition onto our feet, we're going to take our blocks with us. Huh, where did these come from? I guess my pocket. And we're going to take these blocks underneath our hands so that we have something really like kind of easy to connect to here. You let your head drop down, feel the back plane of your body. And it might be nice just for a couple of moments to sort of rock back and forth on your feet, from your heels to your toes and then back again. Might be nice to spread your toes out wide, maybe a little too wide for a second. And then let them fall into this sort of a more natural shape. See how your knees feel today. What about your ankles and your arches? Let your head drop down. Just notice how things feel along the length of your spine. And head nice and heavy like a bowling ball. Thinking about moving through like a whole bunch of halfway lifts here. And it might be you with your hands on the blocks, lifting up halfway. And then bending those elbows and folding forward. Lifting up halfway again. You might decide to massage your legs as you lift halfway. So sliding your hands up the fronts of your legs and then down the backs of your legs. And just to throw in a little extra weirdness, maybe instead of breathing in as you lift up halfway and breathing out as you fold forward, maybe you try reversing it just to see what it's like. And notice your back. Does it feel strong? Does it feel fatigued? Does it feel tight? Does it feel real good? Let's take another moment or two with this. And before eventually, let's hang out in this forward fold just for one more moment. Let the head drop down. Let those back muscles get a little bit of a relaxing few seconds here. And if you want to, it might be nice to take your fingertips to the base of your skull and just sort of run your fingertips from your hairline there, up into the back of your head. Maybe even that little bit of like a raking action. Just a few more breaths like this. And very slowly, let's roll ourselves up to standing. Oh my gosh. I kind of want to wiggle for a moment. How about you? Let's shake out. Let's shake our legs. Let's shake our shoulders. Maybe your head, your neck, thigh muscles. Shake your butt. Good, and then find some stillness. So we'll take our hands onto our belly, our low belly, and our upper belly. Solar plexus, your sacral center. And notice your natural wobble here just for a breath. Good, and then we're going to take a moment to sit down. I'm thinking chair pose. Yeah, hey.
Everybody's favorite chair pose. So let's reach the arms up if that feels okay. If it doesn't, just take your hands back onto your belly. Okay, we're gonna think about really engaging and activating those muscles in the middle of the back, giving them a little bit of a squeeze. Good. Breathing here, yeah. Just hang on to this for like 5 breaths. And one more breath here. And then let's stand up. We can drop our arms. Maybe a tiny little back bend. If you drop those arms down, maybe you're looking up, lifting your sternum. Good, and then let's bring one hand onto the heart and one hand onto the belly. We're gonna take our feet just a little bit wider here. And we're gonna swing. So that gentle swinging action. And as you swing, think about your hands connecting to your body. Maybe even like tapping your body a little bit. Very long arms. I can like snap my opposite kidney. Very weird. Notice where your arms touch. Notice where your hands touch. Notice your feet on the ground. And then if your head, neck, and shoulders are feeling a little bit like left out, bring them into it. Maybe your head turns to it, just as long as you don't have any issues with dizziness. Just a couple more breaths. And come back through to the center. We're going to find a wall. I think for a moment for our favorite strengthening series here. So yeah, we're going to use the wall. We're going to use the wall. And as we come to the wall, I have a few things in mind. First and foremost being, oh God, a wall sit. Are we going to do this? Maybe a wall sit. So, so yeah, let's see here. Oh, there's a painting up there. I'm so sorry. Can you come over here? I don't know what I realized there's not too many people on that wall. Yeah, if anybody wants to come over to this, on the wall. All right, so we're gonna sit down. We're gonna sit down for a little bit. And as we sit down, we're gonna just spend time like kind of noticing how this feels. Kind of noticing what's going on. So let's start with our feet. Start with your feet here. Yeah, notice the way you're pressing down into them. And notice your ankles, your knees, thighs working hard. Notice your pelvis. And then let's feel the middle of the back press into the wall. So kind of go for it. Just press, press, press. Oh, try not to hold your breath like me. Just a couple more breaths here. Okay, and when you come out of this, I just want to invite you to do whatever feels good. So for me, it's almost always like a forward fold after all that hard work. Maybe you want to swing around, stand up. Maybe you want to stand in mountain pose. Yeah. In my forward fold, I'm taking a little walk with my hands from side to side to stretch through the lower back. Just take a moment here. You are folding forward, slowly roll yourself back up. And we're going to step maybe just a tiny bit closer to the wall. And now we're going to take our wall angel. So let's find that place where our feet are maybe like a foot-ish away from the wall. And the middle of your back is going to press into the wall. It's so much easier after doing this in the chair on the wall. So let's kind of hang out here, just pressing our middle back into the wall. Every time I do this, my heels kind of pop up. That's normal. It's okay. Notice how your low back feels. And you could take the backs of your arms into the wall and press. You might even take the back of your head to the wall and press. That really amps things up a bit. Notice your heart beating. Notice your body working, activated, strong. Just take another breath or two. Away from the wall. Do your thing with a little sway, maybe it's a forward fold. Maybe you want to dance. Okay, we'll just take another breath or two up here on our feet. Then I was thinking about coming down for some seated meditation if anybody's feeling like it. So seated meditation or laying down meditation if you would prefer that. Again, no wrong way to set yourself up, but ideally you're pretty comfortable and like kind of alert, you know? Get yourself set up to sit, tending to your warmth. Look at all this sitting up here. Yay. And as you come to sit, let's think about maybe spending a moment checking in with the positioning of your shoulders and your pelvis. And so ideally, we want to kind of draw our shoulders back just a little bit so that it's more or less in line with our pelvis. And then your hands can do anything, right? Maybe they're just sitting in your lap, palms facing up. If you are looking for a little bit more of like a steady, grounded energy, you might take your palms and place them down on your lap or even on the ground. So meditation is just getting in touch with yourself, spending time kind of still and kind of quiet so that you can listen in. And with that in mind, I will stop blathering. Space. a moment, maybe to roll your head around in the circle here. Notice how your neck feels this morning. Good. Balance your head on top of the rest of you, and then just feel the back of your body again. So feel sensing into it. Feel your clothing on your back. Feeling the air on the backs of your arms, maybe. Back of the neck. Nice open and relaxed belly, front body. And then when you're ready, if your eyes are not already open, you can pop them open. And we'll just kind of go about our day and do what we do. So it's really nice